I'll be fine. James thinks me too dim-witted to have aided you. I won't be blamed." There was a bitterness in Eunice's voice that Olivia knew stemmed from being in a marriage devoid of love. Eunice touched her daughter's smooth cheek. "Godspeed, my dear Olivia, and may he keep you safe. You as well. I will write as soon and as often as I'm able." Olivia felt confident that any correspondence between them would go undiscovered, because her father never retrieved the mail himself. It would never cross his mind to go out to the box. That was Eunice's job, just like it was her job to present the mail to him every evening during his dinner. It was time to leave. The hack Olivia had engaged for her escape would pick her up a few blocks away. She and her mother shared one last goodbye embrace. Then Olivia stepped out into the warm summer night. As befitting one of Chicago's best seamstresses, she was dressed in a fashionable dove-gray traveling costume of her own design. To defeat pickpockets, she'd sewn her life savings into the waistband and hems of her skirts. When she reached her destination, the funds would help start her new life. Deep down inside, she was terrified. She'd never done anything so bold before, but she had no choice but to keep going. 2 days later, Olivia was seated on a train crossing the plains. She had no idea what her new life would hold, but she was convinced it would be better than the life she'd left behind in Chicago. That life would have cast her as the wife of one Horatio Butler, a man hand-picked by her father, but one she couldn't abide, let alone agree to love, honor, and obey until death do her part. Olivia owned a very successful modiste shop and hadn't spent the last 10 years building her clientele and reputation just to turn the profits and property over to a man who thought women in the workplace should be guided by their husband's advice. This from a man who didn't know a seam from a hat pin. Olivia could feel herself begin to boil up all over again just thinking about the greedy Mr. Butler and his plans to sell her building and invest the money in Lord knew what, because he wouldn't tell her. In response to her pointed questions on the matter, he'd told her not to worry her pretty little head. He would take care of everything. So Olivia had gone to her banker and had had a discussion. Unbeknownst to her father or Mr. Butler, she'd sold her business and the building housing it to the husband of one of her wealthier clients. The money Olivia received in exchange for the deed added up to a tidy sum, one tidy enough for her to be able to start life elsewhere. She'd decided on Kansas, where many all-black settlements had been established during the Great Exodus of 1879. The newspapers called the movement Kansas Fever. Thousands upon thousands of Southern blacks left the terror and bloodshed visited upon their lives by the Redemptionist Democrats and headed west to places like Kansas, Nebraska, and Colorado. Now, 10 years later, many of the towns hadn't survived, but Henry Adams, Kansas, was supposedly thriving, and all thriving towns needed dressmakers. So here she sat, looking out of the window at the passing planes. She was seated in the car's back row, hoping to be out of sight and out of mind. She'd seen the frowns on the faces of some of the passengers when she'd initially entered the car back at the Chicago station. Her presence was resented. With Jim Crow spreading across the country like a plague, it was becoming harder and harder for members of the race to escape its ugly edicts. Olivia hadn't boarded the train to stir the air. She was just trying to get to Kansas. "Miss?" Olivia looked up to see the conductor standing politely by her seat. "Yes?" Out of the corner of her eye, she could see a few scowling passengers looking on. She ignored them. "I've been asked to remove you from the car." Olivia stilled herself to keep her face